Yeah, it's pretty ugly. It's a multi-count indictment against Sean Combs, a.k.a. Puff Daddy, P. Diddy. Well, this case is going to go the same way as R. Kelly. And what I mean by that is look to the fact that there will be no plea. Sean Combs is going to prison, and it's just a matter of how long. Why do I say that as a former prosecutor? Because when you look at the indictment and you read the specifics of it, the U.S. government, the U.S. District Attorney's Office, the U.S. prosecutors, what they've done is they've built their case. 6 months ago, we saw Sean Combs' properties get raided. It's outlined in the indictment. I say that because a grand jury has now just released a racketeering conspiracy charge against him. Why is that a big deal? Grand juries typically consist of 12 jurors who's already heard evidence viewed in the favor of the federal prosecution, meaning the U.S. Attorney's Office goes before at least usually 12 jurors to say, is there enough here for us to bring an indictment, i.e. charge, in this case, Sean Combs. So they've already got a little preview of the evidence, and they said, yeah, it does. And not only that, multiple counts. Creating a criminal enterprise whose members and associates engaged in and attempted to engage in sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. Now, that's a huge deal because what we know from the last 6 months after they raided his properties, they were looking for videotapes, they were looking for phone calls, they were looking at any physical evidence to put this together, and it looks like they have it. What's the difference between the feds and the state? State attorney's office, i.e. local, you get arrested, local police department, sheriff's office brings the charge to the prosecutor's office, they review it, and they move forward, meaning they still have to build their case. Here, when you're talking about a U.S. attorney, they've done their investigation. It's different at the federal level. When they charge you day one, they're going into court and saying, we're ready to go. The only plea, in my opinion, is going to be conditioned upon Sean Combs going to prison. He's going to be sitting right there next to R. Kelly. And why? Because when you look at this, they reference and they talk about the witnesses that they have. Hotel workers, people from his businesses, friends, associates, sex traffickers. They don't plead with this type of specificity when it happened. Supervisors, security staff, household staff, and go into the illicit detail of what he orchestrated to match the racketeering charge. That means for 6 months, the feds have at least done their homework. The U.S. attorney had enough to take it to a grand jury. The grand jury has come back and said that, yes, criminal acts were committed. In my opinion, don't get it twisted. Even Puff Daddy doesn't have enough money to make this go away. Keep in mind, the U.S. government, U.S. Attorney's Office is the biggest, strongest, and the wealthiest law firm in the world. He's not going to buy his way out of this. In my opinion, as a former prosecutor, they're not going to accept a plea or a fine. He's going to be looking at prison time. The only is when and for how long. That's what his defense attorney is going to do. You'll hear him in the press. He'll come out. They'll plead his innocence. Innocent until proven guilty. We get it. But when you're a defense attorney and you look at the possible witnesses who can bring it together, and by the way, those civil claims that he settled don't mean anything. That those non-disclosure agreements aren't going to apply to a criminal charge. And why do I say that? Because the feds are going to say, hey, that's great for your settlement. And it says it's a non-disclosure, but guess what? You're going to be my first witness, and you are going to testify. And does he really want to have a trial and air this out nationally? But this exposure, you cannot take this in front of a jury because they're going to leverage him. They're going to give him a plea, but if he goes the distance, then he's going to get hammered. At the end of the day, I think this indictment is too specific. It goes for too long, and most importantly, they have too much evidence and too many witnesses for him to get out of this thing. I think you can look. One of the biggest icons in the hip-hop world is going to be doing prison time.